des Morgenrotstrahl, was so stolz wir im scheidenden Abendrot grüßten.
They wore Hitler's uniforms, but they wrapped themselves in the American flag. They preached the doctrine of racial and class hatred, for Hitler had said America could be conquered from within and fall as an overripe plum to the Nazi master race.
Jewish Moscow directed domination.
Hey you guys, what is up? It's your boy Blaze here, coming at you once again from Need Input. So check it out everybody. What you just watched was footage from a Nazi rally that occurred back on February 20th, 1939. Thousands of Nazis and over 20,000 Americans gathered inside an arena for this historic event. But this isn't Berlin, nor Nuremberg. It's not even in Germany. This is Madison Square Garden, New York, just months before Hitler invades Poland and begins the most deadliest war in our known history. The man speaking wasn't sent from Germany, nor is he part of Adolf Hitler's inner circle. His name is Fritz Julius Kuhn, a U.S. citizen and head of the German-American Bund. He was called the first American fascist and wanted a massive rally to celebrate George Washington's birthday.
You all have heard of me through the Jewish-controlled press as a creature with horns, a cloven hoof, and a long tail. We, with American ideals, demand that our government shall be returned to the American people who founded it. If you ask what we are actively fighting for under our charter, first, a social, just, white, Gentile, ruled United States. Second, Gentile-controlled labor union, free from Jewish Moscow-directed domination.
The mayor of New York at this time, Fiorello LaGuardia, knew this event would be dangerous and dispatched the most police on the streets in the city's history. 1,700 uniformed police patrolled the venue, as well as 600 undercover officers in normal clothes, and 35 firefighters armed with hoses in case of a riot. Also, bomb squads were deployed due to numerous threats received. Many New York citizens didn't consider the Nazis welcome in their city, and about 100,000 anti-Nazi protesters gathered around the arena carrying signs against the Nazis' fascist narrative. The protesters tried numerous times to break through the line of police, with the first group being World War I veterans wrapped in or carrying the American flag. But police held the line and pushed them back, often grabbing their flags and pulling it out of their hands. During the protest, a speaker was set up near the venue blaring out anti-Nazi sentiment and telling people to be proud of being American. 13 protesters were arrested and sentenced with disorderly conduct, and many were fined anywhere from $2 up to $25. During Kuhn's speech, a 26-year-old Jewish plumber from Brooklyn named Isidor Greenbaum rushed the stage charging at Kuhn yelling, "Down with Hitler!" but was severely beaten by members of the German-American Bund and security. His pants were ripped off him as they grabbed, pulled, and beat him down. It looked like an SS beating in the streets of Berlin, but this was all in America. Everyone in the audience was cheering for it, and if they would have known he was Jewish, they probably would have killed him. He was charged $25 and arrested for disorderly conduct afterwards. Later, it was discovered that the head of the German-American Bund, Fritz Julius Kuhn, was evading paying his taxes and embezzling the group's finances, spending large sums of it on his mistress and himself. Despite all this, the group was still highly active all through the war. Now here's the thing. I have never once heard about this event ever taking place in our history, and I have studied and researched everything that went on before and after World War II. And in all my studies, this never once popped up in our history. I've never seen it on documentaries discussing Nazi history or Nazism in America. I've never seen it mentioned in the media, and I've never read about it in any history books. My great-grandfather on my father's side came from Germany and moved to New York to start a new life. My grandfather was born in New York, lived there all his life, met my grandmother there, and got married. During World War II, he was a P-51 Mustang pilot, and after the war he became a mechanic working on aircraft. He used to tell me stories all the time about events that took place before and after the war. He was a big history buff, and he also talked about life in New York before and after. He never once brought up this event with me or my father. My father was raised in New York and has never once heard of this rally taking place, and he's a big history buff also, who knows all about events that took place before and after World War II. For me, this Nazi rally held at Madison Square Garden in New York City never existed in my timeline, reality, or my history. It would have never been allowed to occur. So for me, this is a massive Mandela effect change in our world history. A new event written in. But like other Mandela effect changes in our history, it just doesn't make much sense. For starters, at this time, Hitler had already had numerous concentration camps, and there was talk of war. America and Americans were highly against this, especially after we just fought the Germans in World War I. So why would the mayor of New York allow a pro-Nazi rally to take place in Madison Square Garden? Especially since he knew so many Americans were against it and it would cause massive protests and riots. In the contract between the Bund and Madison Square Garden, it stated no swastikas and no anti-Semitic signs or Nazi propaganda.
Kuhn wanted a rally to celebrate George Washington's birthday. The first American fascist is what they called him. They signed a contract with Madison Square Garden. Said, okay, we agree. No swastikas, no anti-Semitic signs, none of that stuff. Of course, once the contracts were signed, those agreements went out the window.
This program was produced for the German-American Bund rally.
We love him for the enemies he has made. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Fritz Kuhn.
Yet, the German-American Bund clearly broke the contract. Wouldn't have New York officials and owners of the building seen the venue before the event and noticed the large amount of swastika flags and posters hanging all around? I mean, it's pretty obvious. Wouldn't they have said, "We told you, no swastikas, it's clearly in the contract," and would have told them to remove them as not to cause controversy? During the rally, they had numerous speakers blaring pro-Nazi propaganda, literally attacking the Jews. There were Nazi soldiers dressed in uniform and others wearing swastikas. Wouldn't government officials of New York and Madison Square Gardens have stopped this event in its tracks, seeing and hearing all of this? After all, this was banned in the contract. Wouldn't they have pulled the plug and said, "No, this is not allowed, we're shutting this down"? Why were New York police stopping anti-Nazi protesters, pushing them back, arresting and fining them, grabbing World War I vets' American flags away from them and throwing them down? Wouldn't the police be on the protesters' side and against this Nazi rally and not wanting it to take place, especially after the events of World War I? And my biggest issue with this rally is the Jewish man, Isidore, charging the stage only to then be beaten down by security and members of the Bund, as the audience cheers with delight over it. He was arrested and fined $25, but none of the security nor Boons were arrested for assault. They just got away with it, as if New York officials were protecting pro-Nazis. And this brave, heroic man has never once been mentioned in our history or media for standing up to pro-Nazis in America. And you would think with the media constantly claiming Trump and his supporters are pro-Nazi and them calling Republicans right-wing extremist fascists, that they would have at least once mentioned this man and what he did in our history going against American Nazism, but I've never once heard of him before. Another big issue I have with this rally supposedly occurring now in our timeline, with over 20,000 people in attendance, numerous Germans, German Americans, and pro-American Nazis, didn't anything happen to them during the war? In World War II, the United States forcibly relocated and incarcerated at least 125,284 people of Japanese descent in 75 identified incarceration sites. They believed that Japanese in America could be spies sending information to Japan and threw them in camps. So if they did this to Japanese citizens, what about all these German American and pro-Nazi Americans? Did members of this rally get detained for supporting Hitler and his views? Weren't these over 20,000 people who attended this event deemed a national threat during the war? And shouldn't have the mayor of New York and all officials who allowed this pro-Nazi rally to occur on American soil been detained? They claimed, despite the leader Fritz Kuhn stealing the group's money, that they remained active all through the war. How was this even allowed? Like I said, none of it makes any sense, but it's now part of our world history.